My shepherd will supply my needs. We fervently pray. You might have noted we do broadcast live on Facebook, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Is it on now?
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be seen, well, actually we don't do anything at the back anyway. So, but if you do talk, your voice might come across if it's working. All right, chalice lighting. Justice is our prayer. We gather together. Excuse me?
We say this together?
You can if you want.
Okay, I will.
We are pretty free here how you want to do it. We gather together today with sacred intention to declare that justice is our prayer. We affirm in covenant with the beloved community that it is possible. Not here, not quite yet. The seeds have been planted time and again, and we remember all those who went before us, who made beloved community a dream that could be realized. Justice is our prayer. May our time of worship, service together continue to water the budding trees of our diverse independence. May our time of worship give air and nourishment to the parts of our collective spirits that need to grow and thrive, that embrace equity as a known way of being. Justice is our prayer. We affirm in covenant with the beloved community that it is possible. May it be so. Let us worship together. And this is by Rebecca Savage. If you're listening, I use a lot of stuff by Rebecca Savage. I like the way she phrases things, and I like her thought patterns. Opening hymn is 83 in your hymnal, Winds Be Still, and we are lucky to have Ty with us so we can actually have some singing today.
Dee Dee's here too. She's a real good singer also.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Hi, Dee.
Sun
if you listen to the lyrics, there's some real value there. Help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony. If only that were the case. Okay, our affirmation, a blessing for leaders. Blessed are you who hold the threads, who trace a through line, who tack the climbing rope for this team's journey. Blessed are yous who tug twice, 3 times to check such precious weight, that this thread supports. May it hold, may it hold. May it safely lead us together where we couldn't go alone. Blessed are you who weave your thread with many others to welcome, to warm, a warm blanket, a tapestry, a climbing rope, holding history, guiding the journey, a square with mat and shine to rest between a warm bowl of food. Blessed are you in your picking up and your setting down, letting another join and weave, or letting this design muddle or rest in the background for a spell. Nothing is lost, all is love. You are still a weaver, there is still warmth and bread in every culture. To dance is to trade places. Bless your intention to love, to comfort, to draw close, to weave beauty, coherence, symmetry, to yes. All masterpieces contain flaws. A broken and inscrutable beauty we did not create, nor can we remove. No weaver works alone. No weaver works without ceasing, but the great weaver, seed, movement, flourishing, rest, unraveling, rebirth, each climber stops to feel the wind's embrace, to admire the trail, to rest, to eat, to reorient, tending to what is sore, allowing inspiration to unfold, rarely in words, but in color, in pattern, in the nostrils and the tips of our fingers. In yearning and rest, what we sought finds us. By Kai Flannery. An unusual presentation, but interesting in its imagery. All right. Children's story. First, we're going to kind of go, as you know, I have a hard time sticking to anything. My wife says I'm ADHD or ADHD or whatever it is, because I keep jumping from one thing to another. So the presentation today changed from one place to another, and it keeps evolving as we go along. One of the things that struck me as I was doing my research, does anybody know who this is?
It looks like the Attorney General of the state of Ohio.
The Attorney General of the state of Ohio, Dave Yost. Have you heard his last quote?
Future governor.
He wants to be the future governor. Has anybody heard there is a big process against DEI, and everybody is aware of that. Every company has folded and bent the knee to support or to play fealty to Donald Trump, and they've eliminated all their fairness, equality, equity, everything, except one company that is in Ohio and many other states. Anybody know that company?
Costco.
Costco. And what did Dave Yost say about Costco? Dave Yost said, you better drop that DEI or else.
No kidding.
He did not specify what or else is, but he is going after a company who the shareholders voted 90%, of which I'm one. They voted 90% to keep DEI as part of the company policy and stand up for what is right versus what is popular or what is demanded. Yes?
Plus, he's just Ohio. I mean, Costco's not a regional
Yes.
store.
Costco is a national store.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Costco was bought out by, yes, Amazon, not Amazon, the other one,
Meta?
Meta. Costco is now owned by Meta, which I didn't know. And I'm not sure actually how accurate that is. I need to check, because Meta has obviously pledged fealty to the new administration. So I don't know whether they're going to allow Costco to do that, but that's, information is the coin of the realm. It is what we need to keep track of. And that is the problem in the information age. is so much information comes down the pipeline and so much of it is false, you have to check and recheck and recheck. But I do know, I do have the quote from Dave Yost that Costco must still be supporting DEI, or they wouldn't be saying that. So, all right, children's story, let me go on to that. This is just another one in the direction we're going.
So ICE agents arrested people for speaking Spanish. U.S. citizens for speaking Spanish. A grandmother, a mother, and their toddler were arrested by ICE in Milwaukee and brought to a detention center because they were speaking Spanish. They weren't doing anything wrong. They didn't have a warrant because they were criminals. They heard them speaking Spanish and they arrested them. Do we know what's going on now? Are we going to get it? Or are we going to say they're just rounding up criminals? These people are American citizens, and they were brought to a detention center to prove it, because they happen to know a language other than English. This is the United States of America. This is what's happening here, people. This is Germany all over again. And if you don't recognize it, I don't know what else to tell you. So ICE agents.
Yeah.
We will be doing, and I told you that, and I keep putting it off because other things come up. We will be doing a comparison, a parallel between Germany 1930 to 1940 with what is happening now. It is truly frightening, the parallels that are going along. This is just one that I've found, and this is happening all over. More than 1,000 people have been collected, and it's being sent to other countries, being expelled from the United States. The numbers they are getting from the ones they sent to Colombia and the ones they sent to Mexico, only 20 to 40% are actually criminals, which are supposed to be the target. When what the guy who's in charge of this said is anybody who is caught in the net, if they're illegal, they are a criminal. They're not the criminal that breaks the laws. The only law they've broken is to come to the United States without permission. But these people are all being sent out. And you all know the problem that causes. A lot of their kids are born here, so they are what is termed anchor babies. So they are American citizens until the last executive order came out. We will see whether that flies, because that is part of the Constitution. But they will be either the kids, and he was asked, what do you do with the kids who are American citizens? He said they can either go with their parents or they can find somewhere to leave them, but their parents are leaving. So once again, the parallels with Germany in 1930 are pretty frightening. Everybody knows what this slide is. This is called, anybody know the title of this cartoon? This is called The Gulf of Empathy. The Gulf of Empathy. You can see the water between the Bishop, Buddy, and the forces of whatever on this side. And that was her only plea, was empathy for the people who are frightened, the people who are in danger, the people who are scared. And none was forthcoming.
Who is the ministerial looking person?
This is Bishop Buddy, the Reverend in the Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. We did this last week, if you missed it. Bishop Buddy gave the welcoming sermon to the new incoming administration. It's considered a normal thing every year because the National Cathedral, the Episcopal Cathedral in Washington, is considered the national church of the United States. They have a service to welcome the new president when they come in. Bishop Buddy gave a long, impassioned sermon to the president, speaking to him into his face, asking for sympathy and empathy for the people who were scared, the people who work in our restaurants, the people who work in our farms, the people who pick up our garbage, the people who build our houses, the people who mow our lawns, all of these people, and some are the DACA people who have been here, were born here and been here, but aren't legalized, not born here, but have brought in as children, are not legalized citizens yet. All she was asking for was sympathy, and she has been getting death threats and been roundly attacked for asking the President of the United States to have empathy for other people, which as we've learned that lesson already. That is a bone that is missing in his body. So All right. Joys and concerns.
Airplane tragedies.
We have 2 airplane tragedies, one in Washington, which this is all part of the whole process. Our president has blamed on hiring cripples to run the airlines and blaming it on women in the cockpit. And the rumors were going around on the right-wing communication channels that it was a trans woman that was the pilot, and that's who caused the wreck. There is a trans woman who is an airplane and a helicopter pilot in Virginia, but she's been posting live videos with her name and date on it to say it wasn't me because I'm still alive. There was a woman co-pilot in the helicopter, 500 hours of service. The pilot had 1,000 hours of flight time, but the president blamed that on hiring people who are handicapped or below par. And we will talk about that as we go along. The fact that we want ethnic, well, we need to go past that. So anyway, that flight, it looks like the helicopter pilot with 1,000 hours, a male military pilot, was flying too high from what everybody can tell, and that's what caused the airliner and the helicopter to collide. They asked the helicopter pilot, "Do you see the airplane?" And he said yes. But there were multiple airplanes there, and he obviously didn't see the one that was coming. He was looking at another airplane and thought he was all right, and he was not. And they flew, and you can see from the pictures, he flew directly into the airplane. A tragedy. The ice skating team from Boston, just multiple people. There was somebody from Cedarville in Ohio on the plane. It touches many, many people. And if you watch the evening comics, they're actually presenting the real news now. The litany from one of the shows late at night, he gave support to the families and condolences for 2 minutes. And then for 28 minutes, he talked about how it was the fault of cripples and DEI and Biden. He even blamed Biden for the wreck. It's just, we are facing a monumental question of competence here. Okay, anything else?
Yes.
The medical flight in from Philadelphia.
Medical flight in Philadelphia. That was a young girl, I think she had cancer, was there at the Shriners treatment. They were flying back to Mexico. They were only in the air for like 2 minutes and plunged straight to the ground. It's unfortunate. There hasn't been major airline crashes in the United States, and I think they said like 24 years or something. And as soon as we have a new president, who, in case you didn't notice, fired the head of the FAA, fired all the safety board for the flight safety board, started laying off controllers, telling any controller who didn't want to do what he wanted them to do, who doesn't have loyalty to the government, that they will be suspended. And we'll go into some of that too. So that started already, and that's where, instead of blaming DEI, some of us are saying it might be the functions of the things that are going on now. None of my lights are working. There we go. Yes?
I'd like to express a joy.
Good.
Since many of you know that that Bill and I, my husband, and I have a son named Nick who has been living with us on and off most of his adult life as well as his youth. We are so pleased that it looks like he may be getting kind of an official diagnosis from a neurologist of autism. Now, why do we care? We care because we're hoping that Nick will get to move to Portland, Maine, to go to the support of our daughter who lives in Portland and her partner, to help support him, because we're going to be gone before too long. And Nick is really super excited if he gets to move to Maine. And so we will know for absolute sure in about 11 days whether the neurologist did certify, so to speak, that Nick is autistic, so that he will have a better basis for securing a job and housing being a very big, hard thing to get in Portland. So that's my joy.
And that is a joy, and I guess we need to swing that back and look in the whole forces and struggle against DEI. Part of that is ADHD and autistic people. The support that they get much of that support comes through the government. Much of that has been suspended, if you've noticed. All foreign aid has been suspended. Medicaid, there's talks about cutting, millions of people off of Medicaid. There's talks about cutting food assistance. It's just, I guess that's something. Speaking of food, what else started today? Well, actually starts Tuesday, I think. Tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China.
Why Canada?
Good question, Dee Dee. Why indeed?
I mean, I can see why he could make something up for China and Mexico, but why Canada?
He is blaming the influx of drugs, illegal drugs, and illegal immigrants. He's blaming Mexico, and for some reason, in his fevered mind, he's also blaming Canada.
Trudeau said their records indicates perhaps 1% of fentanyl and 1% of illegal immigrants cross from the northern border.
And the Mexicans and the Canadians can't do much about that, and it's not coming across by illegal immigrants bringing a backpack. It's coming in semi-trailers through the ports, and it's coming on seaports by ships are unloading it and bringing it in. There's tons and tons of this stuff coming in. So the whole thing, none of this makes any sense, which is the whole problem that we're facing. The striking out against innocent people, the demands that he's making, and telling Canada they should be the 51st state. We might as well start getting into this now. We have to. This originally started out, the title of this started out to be Manifest Destiny. Is anybody aware of the phrase Manifest Destiny? Back in the 30s, 40s, actually even before that, in the late 1800s, Teddy Roosevelt's time, everybody thought actually it started before that the United States had the God-given right to grow and be as big as possible. Because when we started out, we were just the 13 colonies. Then we moved into Ohio, Indiana, that section of the country. Then we moved west, and then we took a little bit of ground from Mexico. If you remember, Texas was part of Mexico to start with. We talked about, does everybody remember 54-40 fight? That was 1833, James Polk running for president. 54-40 is about, 300 miles north into Canada in British Columbia. They were saying that was part of American territory. That was settled back to the line that we have now, the Canadian-American border. So there's always been contention about where borders lie and what the country is worth. But we took over the Philippines. They became a part of the United States that we were under the protectorate. We took Hawaii away from the Hawaiian people. We took Cuba away from the Spanish. And most of these things we gave back to them. We took the Panama Canal. We took Panama away from the Panamanians. Most of these things have been given back to the people that own them, that were originally there. Our current president says we want all that stuff back. We want the Panama Canal back. We want Canada back. He said Canada should be the 51st state. And everybody thought he was kidding when he started. But the longer we go, the more it looks like he's not kidding. This person is whatever it would take to motivate you to do that. He wants Greenland. He wants Denmark to sell us Greenland. The people in Greenland don't want to be Americans. The people in Canada don't want to be Americans. So the Canadians are retaliating with their tariffs. So lumber is going to go up. A lot of our lumber comes from there, which is going to be a problem. If you remember, during the COVID epidemic, the price of lumber, a 2x4 was like $12 for an 8-foot 2x4. It's unbelievable.
Wait till they start rebuilding California.
California is going to be rebuilt. But the problem is California is a blue state, and they're the ones who are going to suffer for the tariffs that he's... Let's go to California. That's part of what we're going to talk about.
Who's going to rebuild? Who are the workers that are going to
There won't be any
rebuild?
because they're all going to be expelled, yes.
They're going to be gone.
It'll take a while.
The chickens are going to...
Still.
chickens are gonna come home to roost, but the trouble is, we're all gonna suffer as they come into the roost and crap on us. So we're gonna have to see how that works out. It's gonna take a while for California because they have to clear the sites. Speaking of clearing sites, does anybody hear the quote that he made about Gaza and Palestine? That's actually one of our, we need to light a candle for Israel. And we'll light our candle for our Ukraine, that's what our sunflowers are for.
And for the Palestinians.
And that's Israel and the Palestinians. Did anybody hear his quote there about Gaza? Gaza, if you've seen the pictures, and I've shown you pictures here, is completely demolished from one end to another. There's over 1.5 million Gazans are trying to go back to their places and try and find some place to live. Our president said the place is a mess. It's a terrible disaster ground. Everybody should leave and be taken to Egypt or Lebanon or some other Arab country, Saudi Arabia, and resettled. And that ground should be given to somebody else. Who would that be? He basically wants to clear out part of Palestine and give it to Israel. And what was the original sign was a two-party state. Palestine, the Palestinians should have their own state, and Israel should have their own state, and they should live in, that was the Carter Peace Pact that was signed. They should live in harmony together. It's going to be really difficult no matter what. But to completely say they should be expelled, that is ethnic cleansing to the direct definition of ethnic cleansing. They should all be expelled, taken out of the country, and that land given to somebody else, the Israelis. It's unconscionable. So, okay, let me try and go back. Here's a quote for you. Patriotism is like the love that a parent has for a child. Nationalism is akin to believing that one's child can do no wrong. Look at your feelings toward the United States of America, compare them with other people around you. Are they the patriots who love a child for who they are, or are they nationalists who believe that child can do no wrong, who think that everything the United States does is right? And so they've passed laws in Florida and actually starting to in Ohio that says you cannot criticize the history of the country. We do not have any, everything is done on equality and merit. We do not have any, nothing bad has ever happened in the United States. It's completely false on the face of it. And yet this is what's going through our school. This is what our kids are being taught. I talked to you about Dave Yost, and here's some examples of what's happening as it's being lived out in our country. Kalispell, Montana has passed the most strict anti-homeless thing that has ever been seen in the United States. No sleeping in parks, and not only that, they removed the restrooms from parks, so they can't even go to the park and use it for a temporary respite. They removed all the bus benches, so nobody can sleep on a bus bench. No longer, your bus ride has to be by appointment in Kalispell, Montana. You can't just stand on the corner and wave a bus down and have a warm place to sit. And you have to pay for your bus ride with a credit card. You can't use cash. So they've eliminated the use of buses by any homeless person to stay warm during the Montana winter. No sleeping in cars, even on private property, and definitely not on public property. No one is allowed to sleep in their car. You're not allowed to have a tent anywhere in the city of Kalispell, even in the backyard of your house. There is one homeless shelter in Kalispell that has 50 beds. There are approximately 300 homeless people in Kalispell. They're trying to close that homeless shelter. Their advice, if you're homeless in Kalispell, find a place to hide under a bush to sleep. Do not let us catch you or you will be arrested. This is the charity, the open heart, the loving people of Kalispell, Montana.
Would you spell that name, please, of the town?
Kalispell,
Yes.
Kalispel.
That should be a small town.
Kalispell, Montana's got a lot of small towns because there's hardly any people in Montana, if you notice.
Yeah.
Bozeman, Kalispell, and there's another one, another bigger.
Same size.
Yeah, what is it? No, yeah, Helena's in Montana too. But Kalispell and Bozeman are the two major towns, and they're not huge towns, they're college towns, which is the other thing, they're college towns. And most people, and Montanans are nice people. They're nice people like conservatives in Dark County are nice people. If they saw a homeless person on the street, they would try to help them. But if you tell them there's a homeless person 3 blocks over, it's like, get them out of the county and make them go someplace else. They're not allowed to do that. There were homeless people in Greencastle under the bridge. Excuse me?
They were in Greenville.
Yes, in Greenville under the bridge, and they've been all pushed out of there. So the homelessness is everywhere. It's not just in but this was the prime example I ran across of the rules.
They could have avoided all those rules and regulations and all the time it took to develop those policies by replicating a policy in the state of Florida. If they could send migrants and illegals to Nantucket, why couldn't Montana send them to Florida?
Yes.
They would not have to worry about cold weather and freezing.
It'd be plenty warm, but
And there
Just
wouldn't be
charter-
that many to
just-
send, like.
Yeah, just charter a bus and send it down there. I'm saying this in jest, by the way.
Yeah,
But I've told you before, it was either Berkeley or someplace in California, San Francisco, or one of the smaller towns, Loma Linda, someplace like that. The money that they spend on homeless people, because they get arrested, they get complaints by the police, they go to jail, they get sentenced, they get released. Their medical problems, their psychiatric problems, they go to the hospital, they're held for a day or two and then released. They found, and this is, as far as I can tell, this is still established, if they provide free housing for these people, they get a refurbished hotel, a small room, they have housekeeping that comes in and takes care of their housekeeping chores, and they help them with their medication. Many of, not all, but many of these homeless people are no longer homeless. They basically get back on track and find a way to take care of themselves. They help them sign up for Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and they get them off the public dole. And many of them actually be able to find jobs and become self-sufficient. The money that we spend trying to force people not to be homeless can be equally spent to help them find a home and solve the problem like that. But the whole conservative mindset, and we've talked about this before, is force. Is when you want somebody, when somebody's doing something you don't want, you force them to do it. How many heard Tommy Tuberville, the legislator, the senator from, I think it's Louisiana or Mississippi? He said, when we had ADHD kids back in my day, we didn't send them anywhere, we didn't do anything, we solved it with a belt. That is the solution. You force, if somebody's not doing what you want, you force them. When kids misbehave, you hit them with a stick or a belt, or you spank them, whatever. And what does that teach kids? To get your own way, you use force. Force is, if you can force somebody to do something, and you can see that in the mentality of everything that goes along here, it's all based on forcing people to do things rather than empathizing, sympathizing, and trying to teach them a better way. That just seems to be an anathema to these people. Okay, the next California example I have, you heard about the fires, which are now out in California because they've had rain. But there was an executive order came down that the Northern California water should be supplied to Southern California. You heard the thing that there was a valve that wasn't turned, that for some reason California didn't turn the valve, and that's why all the hydrants ran out of water. This person is nonsensical. His thought pattern doesn't make any sense at all. And all these other people support him in this. So he ordered by executive order 2 dams, 2 reservoirs in California, the Terminus Dam and the Schaefer Dam. They ordered the water released, so they held like millions and millions of gallons. 2/3 of that water was released into Southern California, which basically it came down the river in a giant flood and flooded the fields in Southern California. And what is that water used for? Why is it in a reservoir? California has a dry summer. It's used for irrigation. The San Joaquin Valley, the home of most of our citrus from California, will have no water this summer, or a shortage of water, because the reservoirs have been emptied and wasted because the fires are already out in Southern California. This is the nonsensical, childish, crazy thing that's happening in this country. This is why we're talking about this today, to make sure everybody's aware of it. So a quote from the ruling committee down there: a decision to take summer water from local farmers and dump it out of these reservoirs shows a complete lack of understanding of how the system works, and sets a very dangerous precedent. This decision was clearly made by someone with no understanding of the system or the impacts that come from knee-jerk political actions. That's somebody who's personally involved in what's going on. Okay, let's just go through a litany of what's been going on. Foreign aid has been halted. South, Latin America, what's the result of that going to be? We support all kinds of food programs, training programs, housing programs in South America, Latin America, even in Venezuela. If you remove all that aid, those people are going to be hungry, homeless, jobless. What are they going to do?
Come to the border.
They're going to come north. The only place they know where there's jobs. So we're recreating another cycle. All right. The 5 top regional heads of the FBI have all been fired. All the agents that investigated the Trump basically group clique for all the secret papers that were taken to Mar-a-Lago, all the FBI agents that investigated that have been fired. All the agents that worked on the Russia case have been fired. These are career people. They weren't politically motivated. They just worked on a case they were told to. And because of that, they've all been fired. How many have heard who took over all the computers at the Treasury building? Elon Musk has locked out the people who work at the Treasury, and he now has control of the computers that write every check for the United States. Social Security checks, welfare checks, military checks, suppliers checks. Elon Musk is in charge of that. An unelected foreigner who basically came to the United States illegally. He was an illegal immigrant when he came, because he came on a student visa, and then he quit college, so he was no longer a student. All the government watchdogs, every agency in the government has an independent person who watches for malfeasance or graft or just poor use. They've all been fired. 1,000 EPA employees have been notified they're losing their jobs. The new Secret Service director was just appointed. We know who that is. It's the Secret Service agent that has been with Trump since his first, and has been guarding him at Mar-a-Lago and was with him when he was the assassination attempt. So his personal friend is now the head of the Secret Service and can direct Secret Service. And what has been the result? Secret Service protection has been withdrawn from Anthony Fauci, from General Miley, from all the people from Bolton, the people who worked for Trump in the first administration and oversaw some of the things that were done to Iran, and Iran has threatened to assassinate them. They're all on their own. None of them have protection anymore. The Iranians haven't said we're done trying to get retribution, and they still intend to do retribution, but they no longer have Secret Service. Let's see. I told you about clean out Gaza. The Pentagon. You heard the news on the Pentagon. There are offices in the Pentagon for news corporations so they can send their information and have a place to perch. All of the mainline media have been expelled. CBS, NBC, NPR, PBS, they're no longer there. Now they have Breitbart News, ONN, and New York Post have been invited to take these offices. Does this sound anything, when I talked about Germany, does this ring any bells? I mean, you don't even have to know the particulars to know what's going on. People are being moved, reassigned, fired, or otherwise put under pressure if they are not able to say they are mission aligned. You know what mission aligned means?
Saying yes to Trump.
Mission aligned is a phrase being used by the transition team to mean you will carry out the orders of the president regardless of whether they're lawful or not. Regardless of whether they're lawful or not. Last week, in tactics of a totalitarian regime, federal workers were warned of adverse consequences if they failed to report their colleagues who refused to comply with the administration's purge of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, or tried to sustain the programs with coded languages. Some Republicans doubtless privately hope that somebody else, perhaps the courts, will take a stand, but the predominant emotion among GOP politicians in Congress seems to be terror that the least expression of dissent, even in defense of their own constitutional prerogatives, will draw a frown or worse, a truth social post from the great man. So they either scramble over one another to find a camera before which they can perform stomach-turning genuflections to the dear leader's infinite wisdom, or scurry into their office burrows and sit quivering like rabbits paralyzed by the passing shadow of a bird of prey. Instead of encouraging the public to wait for all the facts before jumping to conclusions about what led to the mid-air collision between the Army helicopter and a passenger jet, we know where that went. And let me get to the very end here. I've got a bunch of information about when the reporters tried to ask him, and they were basically told that their questions are not very smart, and common sense is the reason he knows the answers to everything. And he talked about the high standards he was looking for. There's just all kinds of other stuff here. Let me get to the very end. This is I'll give you a little lead on what's going to go on in the next week or two. This is a comparison. Research says that both leaders, Hitler and Trump, relied on assertions that positioned them as outsiders. Each boldly claimed as outsiders only they could fix a broken and corrupt government. Additionally, an explosion of misinformation and propaganda became paramount to maintaining power and control. So, I've gone on too long already. Questions, comments?
My comment would be, we'll see this, and probably sooner than later, the public will just tire of it. It'll go in one ear and out the other. And what happened during the years of 2016 to 20, often when anyone expressed any concern, it would be the infamous quote, "That's just Trump." And we heard that from 16 to 20, and then, of course, a breath of fresh air when the new president came in. My question is, we might as well become accustomed to this. But I'm sure that scholars have studied it, and maybe there's been a sermon or here or there. How likely will the three branches of government and our Constitution stabilize things, even though it's to the point of endurance, rather than, I hate to use this word, collapsing? He's obviously going to continue to challenge as an executive branch the other two. And politics in Congress, we're seeing right now play out in terms of confirmation of unqualified and in some respects disturbed individuals. But the courts, he's already leaning on them, and he'll continue to lean on them because in his own right, because of his wealth and his ego, he has fought charges in the justice system simply by hiring 11 or 12 lawyers at a time. So my question is, I guess, or more likely not even a question, will those three branches of government and a separation of powers, allow us to get through these next 4 years, despite the turmoil it will take in terms of civility and, more importantly, being a united country?
That's why I find this cartoon so, you see, the tentacles have a hold of each branch of government. They have complete control of the executive, and they're wiping out anybody in the civil service. They're eliminating anybody in the civil service who is loyalty to the job and not to the person, just like Hitler. He's already in control of the courts. He's in control of the Congress. Remember, quivering in their burrows, afraid of the shadow of a raptor flying overhead? We expected the Congress people, even Republicans. Remember when Nixon was impeached and Howard Baker and other prominent Republicans stood up and said, "I'm a Republican and you're a Republican, but what you're doing is anti-American, it is antithesis."
They said it following January 6th, and within 2 weeks to 2 months, they forgot they said it.
Yeah, actually they said it.
But I think back to the branches, the separation of power. The sheer number of magistrates, judges, prosecutors appointed through that system, the sheer numbers will somewhat keep a check on whatever he rules in terms of executive order or how he subverts the responsibilities within his own department. In terms of Congress, I think the only saving grace there right now is to hunker down for the next 2 years and hope for a change in a 2-year election, the next election. The slim majority he has in House of Representatives right now is probably, in my opinion, my personal opinion, is the only thing that's holding him back. Or he will go even further and harder than he already is. I think that slim majority of Republicans in the House will keep check. All the new senators, unfortunately, that's a lost cause because they're almost all Republican in the Senate. But I think the House will helpfully stabilize things a bit. And the sheer numbers in the Justice Department, a federal judge in some remote place could very well say, I'm putting a stop on that. Or right now, I'm issuing an injunction on that. And it'll play out. And if it plays out in the legal system like Trump plays his personal legal things, they'll go on year after year after year until he's hopefully out of office.
Yeah, I think the fear that I've heard enumerated is he will just ignore what the court says.
To a point.
Well, the only enforcement the court has is like the FBI or the National Guard or the military. He has put his own people in the FBI, and you heard what the loyalty oath is. You are loyal to him, not what is legal, not what is lawful, not what is constitutional, what he
It almost
wants.
sounds like he's politicizing the Department of Justice, and he was extremely concerned about that just a few months ago. And it sounds like he's already politicizing something he objected to when he was running for president.
Yeah.
He only objected to it because it was ruling against him. And if you remember the trial that he was found guilty of 34 counts of felonious behavior, that was an independent jury. His lawyers had a choice to approve or disapprove the jurors that were appointed. That was not a government plot. The government brought the information, they presented it to the jury. The jury decides guilty or not guilty. They unanimously decided guilty on every count. A jury of his peers.
January 6th insurrections.
Yes.
They were jury trials in most of those cases. It wasn't the Justice Department deciding it, they were prosecuting it. It was United States of America citizens serving as jurors.
But the Justice Department is being hollowed out of anybody who has an independent opinion. That's the danger. The hope is these tariffs are going to raise the price of gasoline. Eggs are already $5 a dozen. They're going to be more.
Well, that's not his fault.
And all these things, are people going to realize, the people that voted for him and said everything is going to be better, are they going to say, wait a minute, something's wrong? Are they going to vote to say we don't want these people in power anymore and start voting in someone who takes a stand? Or, think about this, will the vote even matter? The voters in Ohio voted to continue gerrymandering.
Yeah.
They were offered the opportunity to have a non-partial, with Republicans, Democrats, and independents together, set up the districts. They voted because they were told to vote, like sheep, which way to vote, and they voted, we still want to have one party choose everything. Ohio is like 51, 52, 53, 54% conservative. It's 75% represented conservative. Every Ohio state office, except for one Supreme Court justice, is a Republican. And if you look at all these Republicans, they are afraid of the shadow of the raptor flying over. Whenever the great leader says bark, they'll bark and jump up and wag their tail. It doesn't matter how stupid it is or how illegal it is or anything else. That is the danger for democracy, yes.
Or I'm getting depressed. So I'm also suggesting there are a lot of things we can't do a whole lot about with the Congress, the executive branch, and the courts, right? And us individually even. But we are a religious community, and there are lots of religious communities. So somehow I think we have to find some forbearance and light and work together in community. Because it's going to be a long, nasty 4 years. And like, know who your friends are. And I realize who knows what, I'm not a Pollyanna, but I can't sit around depressed all the time. So I have to be with like-minded people, keep saying the truth, supporting the truth. Whatever he's doing is going to hurt some of us more than others. So if we can, support. This sounds like little things. I read you could order little red cards to hand to folks if they're in a position, like maybe illegal immigrants or just immigrants, hand out information to folks where they can get services in your city or your county. You know, we can support, you know, Planned Parenthood or the ACLU or the American Humanist Society or our local, you know, you cook for your local food kitchen. But yeah, I think we have to go on and find some sort of joy, but also I said truth. And I've decided to do one little thing. I'm not going to change the world, certainly. But you know, we're all going to meet up with folks during our days and we hear stupid things. And I decided when I hear something really stupid and I have enough knowledge that I can get the fact out, not just my own emotions out, and without making a whole lot of conflict, like I might be in the locker room where I go swimming, just to, and I've only had one opportunity so far. I just made a very quiet statement. This woman was about, you know, drilling for oil and gas. I said, well, you know, actually, we are drilling we're at a high level of drilling for gas and oil right now. And she goes, well, but he'll do more, and maybe it'll be cheaper. And I said, well, you know, in the long run, I really care more about the lives my children and grandchildren are going to be living. And so I didn't fight. I didn't say Trump's name. And I think I haven't had another opportunity. But, you know.
Positive statements to people when you get an opportunity, knowledgeable statements like that. I think that's very,
but I'm still allowed to cuss about it behind closed doors.
Yeah, I don't think it behooves us to wallow in negativity, but like Amy was pointing out, try to find ways
to
put ourselves out there in a good way.
Just speak the truth.
Speak the truth.
We still have local politicians that we can put their feet to the fire. We can't. The further away from us it gets, the less we can do. At least that's.
Yeah, that's how the Republicans came into power in the first place, because they started at the grassroots many years ago on school boards and various local commissions and so forth, and then kind of moved up into city government and state government and so forth. They did it the right way, slowly.
And that is I go to the Democratic Party meetings in Dark County every month, and that is the state plan now is to start contesting and try to find people to run. If you notice, the ballot is blank. There's no people running on the Democratic side. Trying to talk people into running, even if you don't have a chance, get your name out there and let people know there is another possibility, there is another avenue of approach. Write to your congresspeople, your representatives, even though our representatives are so blind and deaf they will never hear anything. Even if we had a volume of letters, it might make some impression. I think I agree with both of you. The idea is not to be depressed, not to be hiding in your burrow, quivering with fear, to be strong in your community. Come to church on Sunday or listen or go to find another group, a support group, where you can feel like you can vent your feelings and get some support, and then go back out and start again, and not be afraid to speak to people. Speak like Bishop Buddy, not nasty, not angry, not like they speak. Just give the facts in a quiet voice, and if they start to fly out the handle, just back away and leave. All you can do is make people aware that not everybody is part of the sheep herd. Not everybody is buying that stuff. And there are groups. There's a group that meets once a month. It's the Farmers Labor and it's the Farmers and Labor Party. Meets once a month at the restaurant on 36. What's the name of it?
Jack's Place.
Jack's Place. Meets one Saturday morning a month at 8 o'clock. You get a breakfast for $5. You can order any breakfast at Jack's. You can order steak and eggs, which costs $15, and you can get it. All you do is a $5 contribution. That is a group of like-minded people. They always have a speaker. It can be Republican, Democrat, Independent. It's somebody from county government, from state government, whoever they can get to come and make a presentation. always real interesting, but it's a community building affair. There's places there, and we need to let people know that those places are there. We need to let people know that there can be support for everybody, not just the majority opinion. There's also support for the minority opinion. And I agree 100%. We cannot give up hope. We cannot give up being aware. And that's the reason we're doing what we're doing. So, all right, we're running way over now. So if you have something to share, please put it into play. If you need something, take it out. This is the first Sunday, so it's Fish Sunday. We still support Fish, and I did see an announcement somewhere in the paper or someplace. Fish is now having furniture. They're now offering furniture for people that are moving or homeless or whatever, moving into a new apartment. I'm not sure, you have to talk to Fish to find out. I think it's like once a month you can come in and pick out, and it's used things that people have contributed. So it's basically even better. I give all the furniture I find to Goodwill, but I think I'll start giving it to Fish, where it's actually just handed out rather than sold.
Absolutely do that.
Okay, we're gonna hear, what are we gonna hear?
It's called Sunny Side Up.
Sunny Side Up, yeah, we need to hear that.
Sunny side of the street.
Fish is the fish. when I was walking along, oh yes, Lord, the heavens broke and love came down. Oh yes, Lord. We may have to start singing that more often. All right, a Super Bowl thing. Help restore us, our connections to one another, our sense of hope, beauty, and fun in this world, our deep knowing that we have to take care of ourselves and each other with love and joy if we are to soulfully survive. Oh, we are well and truly blessed to have such talented and committed musicians contributing to our service. Music makes the service. All right, we leave our one candle lit for those hopes and dreams that have not been realized, those fears and trepidations that also have not been realized. Hopefully we'll have a better week. Hopefully things will go well in your life. Our last picture, always have to have something with a horse. This is has two meanings. The one meaning is, even though the water is deep, we keep splashing ahead, we keep forging ahead. And the other is, remember the Rio Grande River, remember the people struggling to cross the Rio Grande River. Remember that a mother and 2 children drowned because the governor of Texas put up razor wire, concertina wire, and floating barriers to keep them from reaching the shore. 2 people drowned because he did not want them to touch American soil. And I'm sure those weren't the only ones so far. All right, that closes our service. There's fresh donuts, Fresh Friday, and coffee. We'll see you later. Have a good week and enjoy Groundhog Day. And let's not repeat this again.
Repeat what?
The trials and tribulations of the political situation in the world. This is not a, with Ukraine, with and the North Korean troops, we didn't talk about that, the North Korean troops in Ukraine. It's just, there's disaster going on all over the place.
Even dog stars.
I know that they, no, I'm thinking.
I actually have enjoyed 2 books by Peter, and I picked up just randomly something that had a brand new book out, it's called Burn. These 2 guys, middle-aged guys, they get together every year and take an annual camping and hunting trip together.
The God.
This is the book I'm reading that I can't read at the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Anyway, dog stars.